It's my pleasure to introduce Oliver Steil, who is the CEO of TeamViewer, and he's led it through IPO and transforming it from a single remote access tool to a global enterprise platform. Now, I heard that you said that by 2026, it would be the year that AI stops being talked about and starts proving its value into the real world of work. So tell me about what that means for TeamViewer.
So clearly, we've been working with machine learning and AI for a long while, but it's only now that we really embedded it into our products, across all products, across the platform. And I think for most enterprises, for most companies, it needs this level of productization to be used in day-to-day processes. So if you leave it to the individual employee to work with it, they play around with it, they try it out. Some do, many don't, right? And you see how you can create value with it, but it takes this standardization, this becoming part of the platform, so that also larger companies can say, okay, this is a proven vendor, I understand what it's doing, and I can now apply it. And I thought in 2026 this will be happening, and it is.
If that's the case, you had a vision of building out your business to be a global platform. What does that mean actually for how we're moving forward in the world? What was that vision all about for you?
Yeah, I think one clear thing is, if you look at IT management, we've been around for a little bit more than 20 years, and I think we all know it. If you look at IT management, then we've all bought, many companies have bought more tools, more hardware, more pieces of software, more infrastructure. There's always a new application that has been around and that told you the latest and greatest to be the latest and greatest application. And lots of them have been bought. So now that means the IT landscape is complex. It's very heterogeneous. We've added along the way a few years ago in COVID, the remote component to it. So it's a very hybrid environment, cloud, on-prem, lots of application. And while companies have spent more on IT as they went along, it hasn't significantly improved in terms of what we as employees feel. And I think what is very much needed is to have platform integration, to reduce the number of agents, to bring IT management to a level where there's more automation, more autonomous, so that it really becomes easier, more cost efficient. And ultimately also employees have a better digital experience. I always compare, like, if you use an iPhone at home, it's a great digital experience. If you use the IT environment in the workplace, it's not so great often. And that's what we need to get to.
You just talked about remote access working, which was huge. Obviously, everybody was at home in COVID. How did that affect you moving forwards? Because obviously then everybody went, well, some people went back to work and some people didn't. So what's been your vision for where the business is moving to post the COVID pandemic?
Yeah, so that's an interesting question, because when we did our IPO in 2019, so the equity story was all about moving the world to more remote working.
Yeah.
In 19, pre-COVID. We were probably one of the companies that had the most ubiquitous view on remote. So remote work in a video conference, but also remotely controlling equipment, remote deployments of infrastructure. So all of that. With COVID, that got a very significant development push. So now suddenly something which was maybe more niche before became mainstream. And we really catered for this demand and served that demand. It also meant we got then involved in many more companies, in many more situations, because much more was happening remote. And that put us in the position to say, okay, now that we are in this remote connection with all these companies, what can we do next? And that's when we moved to, okay, we should automate now more. The interaction should be more streamlined, more cost effective, more is possible in this. We should also include the frontline worker into this, because we were all quite used to then work remotely in the office environment with video conferencing, virtual team meetings. But if you think about frontline workers, service technicians that are out there in the field, you also need to enable them to have more access to data. So that made us move into frontline work environment, and then ultimately into digital employee experience, and now putting all into one platform.
Remote access working has become so prevalent now. You know, people don't want to go back into the office. How do you then ensure that the person, the employee, is looked after?
People are more and more generally go back to office. It's a hybrid environment, and that's what we thought is the best. Also in our company, it works the best. It works the best to allow for all the convenience and the flexibility with remote work, but you have to have the cultural glue in your office, in the company. So people come, they mingle, they exchange views. So that's important. And I think that's where we all live. It's a hybrid world, and that's the new norm. So in that sense, that I think is taking a slightly different approach than it was in COVID, where everybody said, like, maybe we never need offices anymore. I think that's kind of gone. The next piece, though, is that, okay, in this hybrid environment, the infrastructure, the IT, the technology you work with is even more complex, even more opportunity for glitches. So we take a very strong view now on promoting digital employee experience as something which we measure at the employee level. So we want to know if you're working, we want to measure and understand how you use the technology and how you experience the technology and how happy you are with the technology. So that was our next big step in development as a company, because we believe, as I said, you need to come from the end result. IT will always tell you we have little downtimes, we have the greatest applications, we have great hardware, it's not a problem, but in reality there's many problems, and that's why we look at it from an employee perspective.
And trust from a data AI perspective. Obviously, there's been all the talk at London Tech Week about that topic. What do you think about that moving forward? Because data and all the, what you're collecting with the people is important.
Yes. I think trust is a incredibly important topic, and you see that coming through more and more, because our customers or people, partners I discuss with, you tend to try to work and want to work with trusted partners. I mean, we've been around for a long while. Other companies have been around. You need to know, how are these people dealing with data? How do they think about data? What is their context? What is their regulatory environment and also their regulatory heritage? How have I experienced my provider over the last 20 years? So now in our case, people know TeamViewer is a German-based company, European origin, European data protection, privacy by design, very secure, high security ratings. So we've built that trust, even if you have glitches. Every company had glitches in cybersecurity over the years, but the way you deal with it, the way you handle it, and it's a known quantity in that sense. And that's what people want and need, because AI is such an unknown quantity, and there's so much going on, so fast development. You don't want to be in a situation where you learn some months down the road, oh, that company handled my data in a very different way than I had thought. Exactly. So, and now it's too late, and now I'm exposed. So trust, incredibly important on a company level, but also on a personal level. So how responsible are you as an employer with your people's data and how they work and what they do? So it goes both ways. And in that sense, context, rules, brand image, and some good heritage and legacy is very important.
And you're in 180 countries, is that right?
Yeah, basically all countries globally, yes. Yeah.
And 180 countries as a CEO of an organization. And we just talked about, the people inside organizations, and you've got a pretty large one. What's that like to be a leader, to create a leadership team in a world like AI, where you've got your own company with all the people inside it?
Right. Yeah, so you want to embrace new technology. You want to really reap the opportunities, the growth opportunities, the efficiencies, and it's a global marketplace, and it's a global company, as you rightly say. So I think what is always helpful is to look in your country, in your footprint, in your offices, where can you be most advanced? And it's needless to say that in the US the development is faster. In other markets, in Asia, the development is faster than it is actually in Europe. I think we struggle a little bit with like over-regulation here and there. So therefore, making sure you're global, making sure you listen to the people and the leaders who are in geographies where there's faster pace is very important, because otherwise you miss out opportunities if you just look at it from a headquarter perspective, because the headquarter might not be in the most innovative part of the world for this topic. In other topics, if I turn it around and say, because it's a global question, okay, industrial AI, industrial connectivity, IoT type, I very much look into Germany, where our headquarters is, because that's where the companies are most advanced in terms of physical AI, digitalization, and very complex engineering systems compared to other parts of the world. So you need to play the strength of having different offices and leadership people in different places, and you have to have them in different geographies. Otherwise, you miss out on the learning.
So I want to know from you about the AI conversation, because it's been the hot topic everywhere, and for the last 3 years that I've presented London Tech Week. Tell me your view of where things are moving to with AI, with what you're doing from a workplace perspective, from remote learning, but what's your take on where we're moving with AI advancement?
So I think AI, I should say, this is such a fast development that I think you better take a very, very open-minded view. Don't have a prescribed vision of where it's going, because there's so many more models, more opportunities, more risks coming. So you need to be very open-minded on this one. I think what we've really seen is the concept of trying to think agentic and trying to think of an AI like a worker by your side for a certain task is very strong. So I see that we are used to work with colleagues and we're used to manage other people or instruct other people. So now we instruct an AI as an agent. So that I think resonates, makes sense. I do believe for a very long while, or maybe forever, there will be human in the loop. There will be creativity, judgment, context is important with a human. But you will just be incredibly more efficient and you can scale what you're good at to many more people. It's abundant resource available if you manage it properly. So I see that happening clearly. And then again, as I said, trust, productization of what's going on to make it reliable and predictable not predictable in terms of what exactly is being decided, but how is being decided. Transparency will be key. In that sense, I believe we're really at the breakthrough. It's coming, but you also see at the same time large organizations still struggling. So there's a lot of context, rule setting, and frankly also experience. We need experience over time. And when the internet started, when other tech disruptions started, we also didn't know exactly where this would go. And we learn as we go. And so you need to be open-minded and have a learning mindset.
And if there was one thing that you would like to say to the businesses here at London Tech Week that they can apply back into their business to build out a global business model, what would it be that you would pass on your knowledge and wisdom to those people about?
The key thing is to try, test, but also rapidly think about scaling and impact. I mean, I think bringing it down to impact is incredibly important. I mean, you have so many people that will try to sell you something, new processes, new gimmicks, tests, POVs. But I think what you learn over time, if you're a bit longer in business and globally, and you need to okay, but what is really impacting? Show me the output, the real output, where the money is, or where the satisfaction is, or where the customer inflow is, versus also nice to have. And I think we tend to fall into the trap of being super excited, especially in the tech world,
Sure.
and especially almost like the startups and many other scale-ups, and everybody's excited about everything as something new. But in the end, we're doing business with people out there, physical business, relationship business, and it has to make an impact there, and that's important.
Thank you very much. That was a wonderful interview. Thank you. You heard it here at London Tech Week.